When you think of gaming, there are a great many genres to pick from. You can have a fun platformer, or maybe an action-adventure. Sometimes a simple hack and slash is all the rage. But some gamers believe that video games should tell a beautiful story. They want to feel immersed in a world, come to love characters, level them up and stuff. That's what RPGs do right. Role-playing games. Traditionally, these games would involve leveling up, using a set party, and fighting your way through some crazy epic stories. And so today, we're going to be looking at my top 5 RPGs. The only rule I have is that I have to have played the game, and as a little add-on, I'm allowing JRPGs onto this list as well. So, let's begin. Okay, so there's a reason why I wanted to put a JRPG on this list, and that's because of this game. Fire Emblem! I cannot, in good heart, do an RPG list without putting Fire Emblem somewhere. Reka no Ken featured Lindis, my favourite Fire Emblem character ever, and a great story. However, it's not on this list. Maybe it's Path of Radiance for Ike's entrance into the series. Is that on the list? Nope. Or maybe it's Shadow Dragon. I'm sorry, I can't even say that with a straight face. Shadow Dragon sucked. It's actually Fire Emblem Awakening. The newest game in the franchise, love the style or hate it, it pretty much was the biggest commercial success for the series ever. America loved it. Europe loved it, the world loved it. There was a whole range of different characters and enemies to face, you could customize your own player character, and you have a key role in the game! The battle animations were smooth, various new classes were added to give more balanced gameplay, new skills were added, including a pairing up system, being able to access as many supports as you would like for a character, rather than just 5 in one playthrough. Lucina! Robin! Tharja! This game had it all! It's just a blast to play through. The gameplay is so simple, and they added casual mode for an added audience. Although I don't use casual mode, casuals suck. This RPG is not going anywhere anytime soon. Especially since it's got a new game coming out. Love it or hate it, Final Fantasy is one of the big names in the RPG genre. Before the travesties of everything after Final Fantasy X, these games held promise. There were cool stories, awesome villains, relatable characters, and some were just tactically fun. That's why I loved Final Fantasy VI. We ain't seen any 7 on this list, sorry Sephi, but Final Fantasy VI was just more memorable. There are a whole host of different characters, ranging from Terra, a half-Esper, Locke, a thief treasure hunter, Shadow, an assassin, and a lot more. There was a varied world, an opera scene, a crazy villain called Kefka, who adds all of the symbolism into the game, and as you all know, I love the symbolism. And each character seemed to have their own varied playstyle in-game, such as King Edgar's brother, who used a very different type of attack pattern that I never really understood. And come on, the game's soundtrack? Absolutely amazing. And then there's the story. Holy crap, this story gets really deep. It touches on things like suicide, imprisonment, and what would actually happen if the villain actually won. It's a pretty hard-hitting game, especially for only Final Fantasy VI. I recommend you go up and play it now. I don't care what anyone says. To me, Pokemon is an RPG. You have battles, you level up, You play as a trainer on a set story, you can customize your party members. It's an RPG, guys, but with a little bit of freedom. Only, most Pokemon games are very lackluster when it comes to story. It usually ends up being a good versus evil, random team attacks the most important city in the place, you beat them, and then you win. And then there's Generation 5. Pokemon Black and White. These, by far, are my favourite modern Pokemon games. The games feature an enhanced battling system, rotation battles, triple battles, a whole host of new Pokemon, some of which are good and bad, but every generation has bad Pokemon as well. And the story, oh my god, the story is incredible! You tread the fine line between different characters and their perspectives through ideals, and this was something that wasn't to be expected from a Pokemon game. It actually shocked a lot of players. Some people shun the generation for being the adult generation of Pokemon. It was a very mature game, and it really required a mature outlook to fully understand the story. I really enjoyed it, a lot more than Nazi Lysander anyway, so whatever. The game brimmed with content, and come on, let's not forget a whole bunch of legendaries, new routes and cities to explore in the eastern part of the region once you beat the main game, and the fight with Alder at the very end is absolutely worth the wait. It's the sign of a great Pokemon game. This first pick is very memorable for me. You see, my first real RPG experience came in the form of a game known as Golden Sun. In this game, you control Isaac, a Psy-Energy user who is out to save his country from the forces of alchemy. However, I didn't know any of this at the time since my copy was in Spanish. I still completed the game in Spanish, and that's dedication. And when I played in English, holy crap! The story was amazing now that I could finally understand it. The characters were very fleshed out, the fighting system was traditional, yet it introduced Psy-Energy, which is basically the magic of the game, which comes from the four elements of fire, wind, water, and earth, which were actually mentioned through planet names, Venus being earth, Mars being fire, Mercury being water, and Jupiter being wind. And then there were djinns, little creatures found in the overworld that were represented by an element. I think there were about 9 for each element. Yes, I believe there were about 9 djinns per element. And if you used them in battle, they would go onto standby, and then you could use the standby djinns to create massive attacks of destruction. One of them was called Judgment. It destroyed the entire world, and it looks freaking amazing. The game featured some great characters, an awesome villainous pair, and a hell of a lot of dialogue. But you know what? I enjoyed it. For my favorite RPG, there needs to be a great story, engaging characters that I can actually care about, a world immersion, as well as variety in the different landscapes so that I can get sucked into a game for hours, but most importantly, the game just needs to be fun. And when time travel's involved, oh boy. Oh man, it's Chrono Trigger! This game is the best RPG of all time without a single doubt. The story of the game is fairly simple. You get sucked into a hole, time travel a lot, and kill a giant beetle alien monster called Lavos. You collect a cast of brilliant characters, such as Magus, the Dark Mage, Isla, the Cave Woman leader, Robo, a futuristic robot, and my favorite character in any game, Frog, the Frog Knight. Each character has their own little backstory fleshed out, adding to their charm, and some of them are really dark. I mean, Magus's backstory, I'm not going to spoil anything, but whoa! And frogs, oh man, the feels! But what of the actual gameplay? Well, this game introduced overworld combat. You actually fought on the overworld. There were no random encounters or battle sequences like you get in a Final Fantasy game. No. You actually fought on the map where you walked. That is amazing. It also meant that you could actually avoid enemies since you actively had to run into them to start a battle, which made it a lot easier to avoid enemies if you really needed to. There was also a bar that had to be charged before you could attack again, which meant the game was less turn-based and more action-based, which was reused in Final Fantasy VI. So you know what? This is revolutionary for a game, especially an RPG, and as such, it gains the #1 spot. I've been below 10,000, and I'm gonna go level up some editing skills.